If you're tired of guessing when it comes to Amazon KDP, tired of thinking maybe next month, and tired of watching other books becoming bestsellers while your book just sits still and it's hardly selling, then let this be the wake-up call video for you. I'm going to break down why books fail on KDP and how to turn things around and how to do better. So to do this, I'm going to look at real listings on Amazon from our community and see what they're doing right, see the missed opportunities and the mistakes that are holding them back from doing well and getting organic sales. All right, so let's get right into this video. And in case you're new to the channel, Cleo and I have sold over 240,000 books between our different KDP accounts. And we have a free Facebook group with over 230,000 authors in it. And with our self-publishing Titans tools, we have helped over 300,000 authors publish their books on Amazon. So that's just a quick thing about us. And let's get right into this. So let's take a look at this book right here. So we can see that they have gotten 0 sales. So let's analyze this listing and figure out all of the reasons why so they can fix it and do better. So here, let's look at the title. It says ABC Dot Marker Activity Book. Fun alphabet activities for toddlers and preschoolers ages 2 to 5. Color, dab, and learn with big bold dots. All right, so the title I liked. It's to the point. We have a main keyword in there, dot marker activity book. So that is fine. And then when it comes to the subtitle, I wasn't the biggest fan. So there was the first tiny things that could have been improved or done better on. So when it comes to the subtitle, there's a couple of conflicting data, which is that toddlers would be roughly 1 to 3 years and preschool would be 3 to 5 years. And then here we have ages 2 to 5. So those already don't make sense and would be slight reasons you're not getting sales. But then the even bigger reason here is that toddlers have a much different IQ and ability level than someone who's 5 years old. So it's already just too much of a big gap where this doesn't make sense for someone to buy it. So it's kind of confusing and sending mixed signals to parents that would be buying this book, or even teachers or whoever would buy this book. So a 5-year-old would have a much different book than a 1 or 2-year-old. So that's something to already keep in mind. So this is definitely quite a big mistake, and this would definitely prevent you from getting click-through rates and getting sales. So definitely something to keep in mind for your next books. And here we have color, dab, and learn. Those words are fine, but they don't necessarily kind of add more value to your subtitle, and they're not really the biggest keywords either. They're just kind of singular words. So a bit of a missed opportunity and a little bit of wasted space here. And then big bold dots, that's also kind of unnecessary because the dots are always kind of big and bold. So that's a kind of given with a dot marker activity book. So this is also kind of unnecessary and wasted space. So I would say that this entire part of the subtitle could have either been left out or improved with other relevant keywords. So that would be my feedback on this title. And the reason the title and subtitle is so important is because Amazon uses your title and your subtitle for your SEO and your organic rankings and understanding what the book is about. So the words and keywords in there are really, really important. It's not just for buyers and the click-through rate. It's actually really important for the Amazon search algorithm. So really keep that in mind and give it that much of importance. So looking at the cover looks kind of beautiful, which is kind of refreshing. So you definitely either did a really great job yourself or found a really good quality designer. What I like is the blue background. I like that there's some circles or bubbles in the background, making it less flat. I like that we have a gradient from dark blue to lighter blue, kind of drawing the attention inwards. Big fan of the text. I like that there's multiple colors and kind of a gradient and 3D effect to it. So that also makes it look kind of fun and high quality. I also like the contrast between the yellow and the light blue. So it kind of all pops and looks great. And I'm a huge fan of showing your activities here. So that's really an excellent job, whoever did this design or whoever came up with this idea. And I like the A fun character. It kind of makes it feel like it's for young kids. So that's also excellent. And then here it says includes other dot marker activities. So that I don't fully understand because you're already showing dot marker activities. So this is one thing that could have been improved upon with other text or even leaving it out. but I also do like how the green looks and the white looks. So if there was text here, this would also be nice. But overall, excellent job on the cover. Looking at the back cover, great job for showing some example pages. So that's also a well done, really, really important for activity books, for coloring books, for puzzle books, or anything like that. So definitely great thinking on that. Looking at your description, I was a big fan of seeing the bullet points before clicking on the read more button. That's really, really important. So you're also doing that right. The only thing I can say here is that we have way too many bullet points. So the ideal number is 5. And that's kind of the sweet spot. So I would try and see if we can combine some of them or get rid of some of them or turn some into some paragraphs after the bullet points. But this is just overall too many bullet points. The bullet points are kind of like an easy target for the eyes to look at, get a quick glance at what the book is about. But if it comes too many bullet points, then it kind of takes away from that advantage and it kind of almost starts looking a little bit overwhelming. So I would just add one more, and you could even have it just above the first line here. And then the other thing you could add is a slant call to action for someone to scroll up and buy your book, or just to buy your book. That can also help you just slightly. So here we can see your A+ content. So great job for having A+ content. This is getting more and more important as Amazon is getting more and more competitive. And your A+ content, especially for these kinds of books, really help you show what your book is all about, the kind of pages and the quality of the interior. So really, really important. But here I do see a missed opportunity, which is not the best. So here we have all of your other books, which is a nice idea. But the most important thing is for someone to buy this book. So this book should have been the first image here. And I would even argue that this should not be part of this listing at all. And if anything, you should have the A+ content widget, which compares other books where they can actually click on it to get to other book listings. At least if they do that, then they still stay within your book domain. But with this, they can't click on it. They can't do anything about it. And it would only be a distraction. So I would probably get rid of that, put this higher up, and you could even show even more examples. And the other thing you can do is make these slightly larger because it's a little bit hard to see. You also can't read what the words are, especially on this one. You can't read what this says at all. Not that it's too important, but you just might make it maybe twice the size, just so it's easier to see and this adds more value. And then here we have so much text, I feel like it's a little bit too much. Since this is an activity book, the images can kind of speak for themselves. And if you have any text, I would just have really short, simple text and not so much, because no one's going to read this whole thing. So looking at this size here, that's a lot nicer than these images here. I'd probably keep it that. And you could even add one more image here showing even more, so you have more space to have them bigger. And then here, unfortunately, we don't have any categories showing, so that is also unfortunate. I like this image here, however, under your author profile picture. So that looks like a nice branded image, but then here the small text is also too small. I would probably get rid of that and just keep it as your main name. And then here, one more missed opportunity is your author description. So you definitely want to fill that out and write as much about yourself as you can. And then we don't have any reviews either. So if you need a place for reviews, if you're not sure what to do, you can also go to selfpublishingtitans.com and click on the advanced reader copy reviews. It's a brand new service that we released recently, or you can also use any other alternative, just whatever you find most suitable for yourself. But just to recap, your cover is beautiful, and the main problem is definitely your keywords in your title and just the text in general, which is most likely the main cause for you not getting sales. Obviously, you also need to make sure that you have long tail keywords in your 7 backend keyword slots. But for these kinds of books, definitely really, really important to have your title and keyword perfect with your keywords. So I hope that this is helpful, and let's check the next one. So here we have a coloring book that has never gotten a single sale, but this was also only published in September. So let's figure out what we can do here. So the title is Autumn Magic. So I'm a big fan of short titles, so that's totally fine. Let's look at your subtitle, which says a fall coloring book for stress relief. So that sounds really nice and clean. Bold and easy designs, also nice, suitable for kids, adults, and seniors. So this is the one mistake or red flag already, because seniors or adults would color in something often that's just very different to kids. And one thing that we've seen also happen sometimes is that Amazon can even reject your book because they don't find it suitable or correct when you target kids and adults, and seniors is obviously even more extreme. So the age gap is kind of wide. Obviously, they did approve this, but just be aware of that. But then the other thing, almost just as important, is that when someone wants to buy a book, if they're looking for a book for seniors or adults, but then they see the word kids in it as a keyword, it could also be a little bit off-putting and they might not want to buy it because they truly want a book just for adults. And they feel like if it's for kids, it might not be right for them. So this can also lead to lower click-through rates and less purchase rates. So definitely not the best thing. So kids and teens could be fine, or teens and adults could be fine, or adults and seniors. So kind of the next generation above it or below it is okay, but if you skip one, then that's too much. So that would be one tip for sure. And this right here might be one of the main reasons we're not getting sales. The other thing obviously is we don't have a exact match keyword in your title. So we have a fall coloring book, which could be fine. We can take a look. So here we're using the Self-Publishing Titans Chrome extension. In case you're new to these extensions, you can just go to the Google Chrome store and type in Self-Publishing Titans, and it will be the one on the bottom here. And this is the brand new one, which basically combines the previous two extensions. And this also has our brand new features with our Titans AI, and all of our new updates are getting added here. So if you do have these ones, you can uninstall those and just install this one. So looking at fall coloring book, okay, so this does seem to be pretty good, but the longer tail keywords that we can find, the better, because when you have really long tail keywords or multiple keywords in your title and subtitle without being spammy or looking weird, then the better. Because if you have a fall coloring book for adults, for example, that is more keywords you can rank for. This one cannot rank for adults since we're not targeting adults specifically, but here we're targeting adults. So here, for example, we could rank for coloring book for adults or just fall coloring book, just to give you that idea. But the more kind of relevant keywords we have, the better. So here we have another example, easy fall coloring book for adults. So now we're getting even longer. So if we have something like that, we can also just rank for fall coloring book. We can also just rank for easy fall coloring book. We can also just rank for coloring book for adults. So this gives you many more keywords and places you can rank for. So the ideal thing is to find a long tail keywords that is as long as possible without being too competitive, without being too small either. And kind of the sweet spot would be trying to find something that has a domain score of 5 and an opportunity score of 5 or higher, obviously. The higher the better, but 5 would be the first ideal starting point. So let's look at the rest of the cover. So this kind of looks like a Coco Wayo kind of cover, which is okay. So the first thing I see here is obviously we have a really nice image, looks beautiful. The one thing I don't understand is why we have a circle around one leaf. So that kind of is confusing. Not a huge deal. These are just tiny critiques and kind of tiny thoughts, because all little things add up to one major thing. So just keep that in mind. And then when looking at this text here, it looks nice and clean and popping, but I feel like it's kind of a little bit too low, and I don't really like that this is below the kind of rainbow or these lines here. So if we zoom in, I think the text personally as a preference should be above that and not go into this lighter background. So I feel like this could be higher up here and then probably look slightly better, something you can try out. And then here, this is a little bit too much text for my own personal preference. And you could even try having it at the top, just below the autumn magic. And here it says a fall coloring book for stress relief. So stress relief we already have in the title. And as long as you have that text in the spine, you don't have to have the exact title and subtitle on the front cover. So when looking at this, the most important thing is just that this is a coloring book, because by looking at this image, you can't see that this is a coloring book. And the title also doesn't give that away. But we can see that this is fall themed, so fall is not really necessary. And stress relief is also not really something that's a must on a cover, especially because we all have that early on in the title. And the other thing is, stress relief is just a good keyword, but any coloring book can be for stress relief. So it's kind of like an automatic given that someone who's looking for stress relief will look for a coloring book. So they don't have to see that either. So I would personally say that fall coloring book would be enough, or even just coloring book, but fall, since it's so short, could be fine. And since we are moving this text up, I would try putting it just below. And if not, just having that just in the center down below. And the other thing I would try is also just using that same font from the top instead of just that yellow there, to see if that looks better or worse. Or having a white background so we don't have such a bright yellow and a white. I feel like that might look better. But the one thing you can always do is test different variations of the designs. like looking at them next to each other and see which one looks the nicest and then going with that. But trying all of these things, I think, will definitely make nice improvements. Obviously, overall, your cover is okay, not bad, but these are just improvements to help you just get a better click-through rate and a higher conversion rate. So what I like on this description is that it's nice and short, but it is long enough. And I like that everything fits without having to click the read more button. And even more important, I like that we have bullet points here. So the other thing that we see here is that we have a little ending paragraph. We could also say buy your book today, just at the very end as a call to action. And my preferred number of bullet points is 5. So you have 4, which is already good. But if you can add 1 more, that would just be even better. And just another preference point, I like that these bullet points are not touching other lines. So at the top, we have that empty space, which is great. But then here we have it touching with the next line. So that is something I don't personally like, because the reason I like that is it just makes it stand out even more, makes it even easier to see and read. But otherwise, I like it. Let's look at your A+ content. So I like the colors. I like that we're sticking with the theme. Really, really cool. So my only critique so far is that within the first 3 images, we cannot see a single example of what is inside this book. So if you're just looking from a buyer perspective, this image right here would add no value to them. It is nice looking at it. It's pleasing to the eye, high quality image. So that's all nice, but it doesn't give them any more reasons to buy the book. So these images down here, this is what they would want to see. Here they can see what they would be coloring in, if it's good enough for them, if it's too easy or if it's too hard, but they can see exactly what it is, which is really, really important. So I would put this much higher up, probably just below this one right here. I do like that we show the size of the book, which is nice, but this is really the most important thing with your coloring book. This is a nice lifestyle image. You can see it's cozy and it's relaxing and stress relieving or whatever you want it to be. So I like that, but this would be the most important part because this shows what the inside of the book is. So you could even have more of that and less of these other images. So this one could be replaced with just more pages or just putting this higher up. And I think that would definitely help you improve your A+ content. But overall, nice and clean. I like the colors. I like the color gradients. I like the fonts. So definitely nice effort, nice create. So well done on that. Okay, so here we have another missed opportunity. So you don't have an author profile image or a branded image, and we don't have a author description. So that just makes it look a little less exciting, a little bit more boring and less professional. So if we can add that, it just makes it so much nicer because Amazon does show it for every single book. And if yours doesn't have it, it just doesn't make it feel as good or as nice. And then we don't have any reviews. So that's something you also want to fix. But yeah, otherwise, I think you have potential with Amazon. I think your title overall is okay. There's nothing that's spammy about it or too repetitive. Just slight improvements needed here. And then your cover is also nice. Just slight improvements needed on that. And then besides that, having reviews when you launch your book or right after will also help you. So I think you're on the right track. Just make these improvements and then continue publishing. And then just one more thing in case you are new, I would also not recommend that you go for seasonal niches because they come and go really, really quick. So if you're just a brand new beginner, it's kind of like the lottery. You can try and make a book, but most of the time you will fail because it is kind of competitive. Others will also publish brand new books and you don't have much time for this to get rankings organically. So if you are new to KDP, I would stick with evergreen niches with books that can sell all year long rather than going for these kind of seasonal niches. So I think that will also help you because if you make a good book that sells, it'll give you sales all year long. And then this book only has the potential of selling for a few weeks, maximum a few months. So just keep that in mind. That should be a helpful tip too. And let's check the next book here. So we have another coloring book, kind of similar themed, kind of going after the Coco Wire look. So this book is actually from Italy. So I'm using the Google Translate Chrome extension for that. And while we are on this topic, when you have a coloring book, since there's not much text or no text, you can easily translate a title and a description into other languages. So if you are Italian, I would also recommend doing the same book in English because there's hardly any effort needed besides changing the cover text, which this is already English or most of it, and then just your listing text. And then you just have that much more chances of getting sales on the same materials on a new listing in other countries. So it's low effort and potentially high results, but even if there are no results, you hardly lost any time on it. So just one thing to keep in mind, and this is applicable also for certain activity books or puzzle books, just anything that doesn't have any text in it. Those would be ones that you can try. And then the other thing you can do is obviously run Amazon ads for all the different countries for those books. So that's one thing that can also just help you overall achieve better success. But let's look at this one. So you can see you are getting some sales, so that's well done. Congrats on that. But let's see what we can do to help you boost that and hopefully get you into the top 100. So it says cozy time, so short and sweet, I like that. And then coloring book for adults and kids. So once again, I'm not a big fan of targeting kids and adults in the same title or in the same thing. And Amazon also doesn't always like that. So obviously, sometimes they approve it, as we can see, but we've also seen many books get rejected because of these kinds of things. And then the other thing which I keep mentioning is that if someone is looking for a book for adults, but they say kids in the title, then they might not want to buy the book because they only want a book that's targeted and suitable for adults. Or if someone's looking for a coloring book for kids and they see the word adult in it and they have a young child, then maybe they think their coloring book is not suitable for their young kid. So then they might not also buy it. So it's not only bad for potential approval problems, but also just for potential buyers might not be the best. So obviously you are getting some sales, but this is just one tip for future books. And if you want to target kids and adults, you can also just make 2 books for the same rest of the title. So this could be just for kids or just adults. So just keep that in mind. But otherwise, nice and clean so far. But we don't need to make another subtitle. So now it looks like we have 2 main titles and then a subtitle. So that's also slightly odd. So I would just not do that in the future. But then here it says relaxing scenes and everyday moments to promote relaxation and reduce stress. So otherwise, this sounds clean. The only other slight critique I would have is that we have relaxing and relaxations, and those are not really like main keywords, so there's no need to have different variations of that word. Kind of repetitive and a little bit wasted space. But otherwise, the reduced stress is nice, relaxing is nice. So you're definitely on the right track. I think this is really, really good. You definitely have a good understanding of your title. These are the small improvements that you can continue making with your future books. And I think you'll do even better. Let's look at your cover. So here, huge fan once again. I like the color choices. The background purple is really nice, kind of looks clean. I like the font choice and the darker purple that also looks really, really nice. And then all of these images also look awesome. So excellent job on your cover. The only other thing you could do is maybe at the bottom here say coloring book, since that by itself doesn't really speak coloring book and someone could mistake it as a storybook or something like that. Obviously we have the title, but if someone just looks at the image, they might not see that this is a coloring book. So just one thing to keep in mind, that could be a slight improvement, but otherwise really, really nice job. Overall, big fan on this. So let's look at your description. So here we have a nice long description. The main critique here is that we have way too many bullet points and that you have to click on read more to see all the bullet points. So once again, the bullet points are your most important part of your description. So you want to have that right at the top, just below the first line. So that's one thing I would change. And then I would get rid of some of these bullet points or combine them with other bullet points or turn those into paragraphs, but it's just too much. But the other thing you did great here is having a call to action. So excellent job on that. So here we can see you are getting some sales, which is good. Hopefully that continues. So let's look at your categories. So painting books for children, decorative arts. So the first category sounds good. So I'm guessing this is coloring books, just mistranslated from Google. Decorative arts, I don't feel suits for a coloring book. And here we have children's drawing books. So I don't know if this is a mistranslation from Google, but I would definitely make sure that we have coloring books actually as a category. Just check that for me since I can't see that. But here you have 3 reviews, which is great. This should be enough to get going. And they're all 5 stars, which is excellent. And we have a nice branded image here and a description. So overall, I feel like you are doing a great job. These things would just help you get even more sales for this book and your future books. So I hope that this was helpful. If you want more free daily training, make sure to subscribe. If you want your book reviewed by myself, you can also go to selfpublishingtitans.com/review and then enter in your book details, and I would love to help you as well. All right, so that's it for today, and then I'll see you in tomorrow's video. Bye.